video number 58. So for this video, I thought we take a look at the book of Amos. And I'm just going to jump right in and start reading in Amos chapter 9 and verse 8. So here we go. Look, the eyes of the Sovereign Lord Jehovah are upon the sinful kingdom, and he will certainly annihilate it from upon the surface of the ground. So what kingdom is this? Certainly it can't be God's kingdom, because God's kingdom will last till time's indefinite. And yet here we have a sinful kingdom. And there won't be any sinners in God's kingdom. Right? Let's make sure. We'll read now Revelation chapter 21 and verse 27. But anything not sacred, and anyone that carries on a disgusting thing and a lie, will in no way enter into it. Only those written in the Lamb's scroll of life will. So, that's not the sinful kingdom. So, is this talking about Israel in ancient times? Perhaps Jerusalem in the first century? Or is it talking about a more modern end-time kingdom? Well, let's keep reading. It says, Nevertheless, I shall not completely annihilate the house of Jacob, is the utterance of Jehovah. For look, I am commanding, and I will jiggle the house of Israel among all the nations. So the sinful kingdom is among all the nations? And I will jiggle the house of Israel among all the nations, just as one jiggles the sieve, so that not a pebble falls to the earth. So, if this is the sinful kingdom, and the house of Israel is among all the nations, then it can't be just the Jews in the first century, because that was just one tribe in one place, Jerusalem, Judah. So this has to be another kingdom. Jesus Christ's kingdom? So it goes on to say, by the sword they will die, all the sinners of my people, those who are saying, the calamity will not come near or reach as far as us. So, is there a people claiming to be God's people who are saying the calamity will not come near or reach as far as us? Well, That reminds me of something we've discussed earlier. Again, in Isaiah chapter 28, the chapter about the covenant with death. Millions now living will never die. So, listen carefully. In verse 14, it says, "Therefore hear the word of Jehovah, you braggarts, you rulers of this people who are in Jerusalem. Because you men have said, we have concluded a covenant with death, and with Sheol we have effected a vision. The overflowing flash flood, in case it should pass through, will not come to us, for we have made a lie our refuge, and in falsehood we have concealed ourselves. In case it should pass through, it will not come to us." Remember in Amos? Those who are saying the calamity will not come near or reach as far as us. So, could this be the kingdom? The sinful kingdom? The kingdom that tells lies? Takes refuge in a lie and believes that the calamity will not come near to them? The ones who make a covenant with death? Millions now living will never die. You positively will not die. So, it does talk about the rulers of this people. A kingdom. And yet, if those rulers are indeed Jacob, the house of Jacob, it says here, "Nevertheless, I shall not completely annihilate the house of Jacob," is the utterance of Jehovah. So, what part of the house of Jacob might be annihilated, and what part will not be annihilated? Good question to ask. Huh? So, let's go see if we can find out. So, what part of the house of Jacob might be annihilated? So here I am now in Micah chapter 3. We've read this before. I'll read it again. Verse 1 of Micah chapter 3. "And I proceeded to say, Hear, please, you heads of Jacob, and you commanders of the house of Israel. Is it not your business to know justice? You haters of what is good and lovers of badness, tearing off their skin from people and their organism from off their bones. You the ones who have also eaten the organism of my people, and have stripped their very skin from off them, and smashed to pieces their very bones, and crushed them to pieces, like what is in a wide mouth pot. Does that sound like a part of the house of David that might be annihilated? In fact, the fourth and fearsome wild beast mentioned in Daniel, the wild beast with 10 horns, 10 kings, 10 sons of Jacob. So I'll go to verse 12 now. The last verse in Micah chapter 3. Therefore, on account of you men, Zion will be plowed up as a mere field, and Jerusalem herself will become mere heaps of ruins. And the mountain of the house will be as the high places of the forest. Annihilated. So maybe we should go read in Daniel chapter, what chapter is it? 7. We should go read in Daniel chapter 7 and see what it says. Daniel chapter 7, and let's see what it says about the fourth fearsome beast. So here it is. This is what happens to the fourth fearsome beast that's crushing and tearing with its teeth and crushing with its feet. I'll start in Daniel 7 and verse 26. See if you can see any similarities to Amos chapter 9. It says, and the court itself proceeded to sit, and his own rulership, that's the fourth fearsome terrible beast, his own rulership, they finally took away in order to annihilate and to destroy him totally. But let me keep reading. And the kingdom and the rulership and the grandeur of the kingdoms under all the heavens were given to the people who are the holy ones of the Supreme One. Their kingdom is an indefinitely lasting kingdom, and all the rulerships will serve and obey even them. So, did you see the similarity to Amos? Annihilated. So, let me read it again. It's in Amos chapter 9, verse 8. Look, the eyes of the Sovereign Lord Jehovah are upon the sinful kingdom, and he will certainly annihilate it from upon the surface of the ground. Annihilate it. Totally. So, if it says here, nevertheless, I shall not completely annihilate the house of Jacob, and we know that the fearsome beast has 10 horns. How many does that leave? 2. So let's go now and read something else we've already read before. If I can quickly find it, in Ezekiel chapter 37. And we'll read verse 19. This is what the Sovereign Lord Jehovah has said. Here I am taking the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, his partners, and I will put them upon it. That is the stick of Judah. And I shall actually make them one stick, and they must become one in my hand. So, if the house of Jacob is not going to be completely annihilated, what's left? Judah and Joseph, out of the 12 tribes. And Joseph has the tribe of Ephraim, a people out of all nations, people called by God's name, the house of Israel. Amazing, huh? And so Judah, we already know who he is, King of the Jews, Jesus Christ. So who is Joseph? But hey, if I was one of those 10 kings and just heard what I said, oh boy, I'd want to run away and hide. So here's some homework for you now. Go back and read Amos chapter 9, but this time start at verse 1.